Pioneer Era, 1869 to 1893. College football didn't start with touchdowns. It started with something closer to organized chaos. The very first game, Rutgers versus Princeton in 1869, looked more like a violent mix of rugby and soccer than the game we know today. There were 25 players per side, no forward passes, and a whole lot of kicking and pushing. Strategy? Barely. This was just two mobs trying to move a ball through brute force. Fans weren't just watching, they were praying players didn't leave in stretchers. But change came fast. In the 1880s, a Yale player and coach named Walter Camp basically rewrote the sport. He created the line of scrimmage, the down system, and standardized 11 players per team, transforming the sport from anarchy into structure. Think of Camp as football's founding engineer. Without him, there's no snap, no clock, no field position game. By the late 1880s and early 1890s, colleges began organizing themselves into conferences, and the idea of rules being made by neutral committees emerged. The Intercollegiate Football Association laid early groundwork for consistent play. Games were brutal, often bloody, and safety rules barely existed. But the foundations were laid. Offense versus defense, structure versus chaos, teams versus just a bunch of guys. This was the Wild West of football, but it set the blueprint. From Rutgers' muddy field to Walter Camp's chalkboard, the game went from mob sport to a formalized contest. Still brutal, still physical, but now at least it had rules. Sort of. Rules were finally coming in, but so were the injuries. When the president has to step in, you know the sport's gone off the rails. Pre-poll era, formation and regulation. 1894 to 1935. By the 1890s, football wasn't just a rough pastime, it was deadly serious. And we mean that literally. Dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries in the early 1900s made headlines, prompting national outrage. Even President Theodore Roosevelt stepped in. His message? Reform the game or lose it. The solution? Real structure. Rules were changed to prioritize safety and reduce gang-style mass plays. In 1906, the biggest leap happened. The forward pass was legalized. It was clunky at first. Incomplete passes were basically turnovers. But it changed everything. The game shifted from a smashmouth brawl to a strategic battlefield. Brains started beating brawn. Conferences solidified. The Big Ten began forming as the Western Conference. The NCAA was born out of reform efforts, and national rulebooks started replacing local chaos. Games started to resemble the football we know. Tackles, substitutions, penalties, even the idea of downs became real football lingo. And then came the bowl games. The Rose Bowl kicked off in 1902 and became annual in 1916, turning college football into a tourist event. By the 1930s, the Sugar, Cotton, and Orange Bowls arrived. Suddenly, teams weren't just playing for pride or records. They were playing for prestige, money, and national exposure. This era took the sport from raw survival to strategic spectacle. The forward pass opened the field. The bowls expanded the stakes. And by 1935, college football had gone national. No longer a game played just in the Ivy League, but a full-on American tradition. Just when things started to settle, someone had the bright idea to crown champions before the games were played. Welcome to the era of opinion over outcome. Early poll era, 1936 to 1945. In 1936, college football got its first real taste of nationwide rankings. That's when the Associated Press AP poll launched. And for the first time, national champions were crowned not on the field, but by vote. Sports writers across the country decided who was number one, and the era of poll-based champions began. It changed everything. No longer was dominance local or regional. Now teams needed national respect. A powerful East Coast team could suddenly lose the crown to an undefeated squad from the South or Midwest if the press liked the story better. The fight for prestige got political. Bias and controversy? That came standard with the poll. Then came World War II, and football changed again. With so many players off to war, schools had to adapt. Rosters shrank, schedules shortened, even powerhouse programs took hits. But one innovation came out of this chaos: two-platoon football. Before the war, players played both ways, offense and defense. But with wartime substitutions and reduced rosters, teams started rotating units. After the war, this evolved into full-time specialization. Offense and defense as separate units. Strategy exploded. Coaches could now design plays for specific matchups. Football IQ skyrocketed. By the end of this era, football was bigger, faster, and more structured than ever. Polls controlled the narrative. The war reshaped the roster, and two-platoon play opened the floodgates for tactical football. It wasn't just who could hit harder anymore, it was who could outthink the game. The war ended, players returned, and football got faster, sharper, and smarter. But the championship system? Still stuck in the 1930s. Intermediate poll era, 1946 to 1967. Welcome to the post-war gridiron, where college football is finally starting to look like the game we know today. The two-platoon system, where separate units handle offense and defense, took full effect by 1964. Before that, players still had to do it all: block, tackle, and throw without leaving the field. But after World War II, substitution rules relaxed, and specialization exploded. Now you had quarterbacks who didn't play linebacker and cornerbacks who weren't expected to throw blocks on offense. Strategy flourished, coaching evolved, and the game became faster, sharper, and way more tactical. But while the action on the field got smarter, the way we crowned champions? Not so much. This era was still locked into a weird tradition. Final AP and coaches' polls were released before the bowl games. Yep, national titles were handed out before the biggest games were even played. That meant a team could lose its bowl and still be declared national champion. Happens more than you'd think. This era was also when television started creeping in. Games began broadcasting to wider audiences, boosting programs in the South and Midwest. Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Army were titans. Big names like Bud Wilkinson and Bear Bryant became legends. But there was no playoff, no unified ranking system. Everything came down to the voters, and they weren't always watching the same games. By the time the 1960s closed, the pressure to fix the system was building. Fans were tired of bowl games that didn't impact the championship, and teams were tired of being locked out of title contention because of conference tie-ins. The stage was set for change, but for now, you had top-tier football played by elite specialists, with national titles still decided by Monday morning opinion polls, not Saturday night victories. Bowls now mattered more than ever, but instead of settling debates, they just started new ones. One win, two champions? Welcome to the golden age of split titles. Poll-driven bowl era, 1968 to 1991. This is where college football gets juicier and messier. In 1968, the AP finally decided to wait until after the bowl games to release its final poll. That single decision gave postseason games real stakes, but it didn't fix the core problem. Poll politics and bowl tie-ins still ruled everything. Here's how it worked. Conferences were locked into specific bowl deals. The Big Ten champ went to the Rose Bowl. So did the Pac-8 winner. The SEC champ went to the Sugar Bowl. That meant the top two teams in the country almost never played each other. Even with rankings and post-bowl polls, college football had no built-in way to crown a true champion. And so the split title was born. Let's say Notre Dame wins the Cotton Bowl and looks amazing. Meanwhile, Miami wins the Orange Bowl and also looks amazing. The AP likes Notre Dame. The coaches' poll likes Miami. Boom. Two champions. No playoff, no tiebreaker, just vibes. The 1970s and 1980s saw some incredible programs. Nebraska under Tom Osborne, Miami's rise as a swaggering dynasty, Penn State's unbeaten runs, and Alabama's continued dominance. But every year was a guessing game. Who gets ranked number one? Who gets snubbed? Who gets sent to the wrong bowl because of a contract signed 20 years ago? Television got bigger. More bowls were added. More money was involved. But fans got louder too. They wanted a championship game. They wanted the best to play the best. Instead, they got politics, contract handcuffs, and a sport ruled by sports writers and coaches with ballots. This era made football bigger and bolder, but also more frustrating. It gave us drama and dynasties, but also debates and disappointment. And by the early 90s, everyone was asking the same question. Why can't we just let them play? Fans were done arguing. The sport needed a champion decided by something, anything, more reliable than sports writers. Enter computers, controversy, and the BCS. BCS Era, 1992 to 2013. The 1990s were a turning point. Fans were tired of split titles, bowl tie-ins, and chaos disguised as tradition. Enter the Bowl Coalition, 1992 to 94, followed by the Bowl Alliance, 1995 to 97. Both were awkward first steps towards something resembling a national championship game, but still left out major conferences and teams. Then in 1998, college football finally committed to a system that tried, emphasis on tried, to crown a real champion. The Bowl Championship Series, aka the BCS. The BCS was part science, part sorcery. It combined human polls, computer rankings, strength of schedule, and other mystical formulas to decide the top two teams for the title game. No bracket, no semifinals. Just a single winner-take-all showdown. It looked good on paper until it didn't. Controversy was constant. The BCS often snubbed undefeated teams or punished weaker schedules, regardless of actual performance. Boise State went unbeaten multiple times and got nothing. Auburn in 2004 finished 13-0 in the SEC and still didn't make the title game. In 2011, LSU beat everyone, including Alabama, and then had to play Alabama again in the title game, and lost. The system also favored the power conferences, the so-called Group of Five, G5. Smaller programs like UCF, TCU, pre-Big 12, and Utah were boxed out. Strength of schedule became a double-edged sword. Too soft, and you were ignored. Too strong, and one loss killed your chances. Despite the mess, the BCS delivered epic games. Texas versus USC in 2006, Miami versus Ohio State in 2003. It gave us Vince Young's heroics, Trestle Ball, and Saban's early dynasty, but it also cemented the feeling that college football was still stuck in an exclusive club, decided more by formula than fairness. By 2013, the noise was too loud to ignore. The next step wasn't perfect, but it was inevitable. A playoff was coming. We finally got a bracket. Just 4 teams, but hey, progress. And the drama? Instant classic. Too bad it mostly featured the same 5 schools on repeat. CFP, 4-team playoff. Era, 2014 to 2023. In 2014, college football did the unthinkable. It introduced a playoff. Just 4 teams, but still, it was a bracket, and it changed everything. No more secret formulas. No more single-game title deciders picked by computers. Now, the top 4 teams, selected by a human committee, would face off in 2 semifinal games, with the winners meeting in the College Football Playoff National Championship. The impact was immediate. More clarity, more drama, more television money, but also more of the same. The playoff mostly became an SEC showcase with Alabama, Georgia, and LSU making frequent appearances. Clemson had a dominant run. Ohio State got its shot. But new blood? Rare. The same few programs recycled through the semifinals year after year. The group of 5 was still locked out until 2021, when Cincinnati finally broke through. They made the playoff and played Alabama. It didn't go well, but it was historic. One small step for underdogs, one giant reminder of the power gap. Controversy didn't disappear. Some years had obvious top 4 teams. Other years, total chaos. Teams like TCU, UCF, and Baylor got left out. Arguments over best versus most deserving dominated sports radio. The playoff gave us better matchups, but also exposed just how top-heavy the sport had become. Still, the CFP gave us unforgettable moments. The Tua-game winner in overtime, Clemson dethroning Bama, and Joe Burrow's 2019 LSU team, steamrolling everyone in sight. It made the national title a real tournament, but it wasn't enough. Fans wanted more teams, more access, more chaos. So, after a decade of dominance and drama, the 4-team playoff ends in 2023. In its place, an expanded 12-team field. More teams, more stakes, more hope. College football's next era isn't just coming, it's already here. The playoff finally opened up. More teams, more chaos, and more money. But as the bracket expanded, the conferences exploded. And now, college football feels more like a power grab than a sport. Expanded playoff and super conference era, 2024 to present. In 2024, college football finally opened the gates. After years of debate, drama, and playoff snubs, the sport expanded to a 12-team playoff, its biggest structural change in over a century. The new format guarantees spots to the 6 highest-ranked conference champions and 6 at-large teams, with the top 4 champs earning first-round byes. For the first time ever, every major region and conference has a shot, and first-round games are played on campus. Real stakes, real access, real madness. But just as the playoff expanded, the sport's foundation cracked. Conference realignment exploded, turning tradition into rubble. The Pac-12 collapsed in real time. Teams fled to the Big Ten, Big 12, and ACC, leaving the once proud West Coast power hanging by a thread. Now, instead of the Power 5, we're down to the Power 4. And even that title feels shaky. The Big Ten and SEC became super conferences, swallowing schools coast to coast and flexing their media deals like empires. The Big Ten has USC, Oregon, Washington, and UCLA. The SEC added Texas and Oklahoma. These 2 giants now dominate TV contracts, playoff seeding, and recruiting. Everyone else, fighting to stay relevant. Meanwhile, the group of 5 and surviving independents face a new reality. Fewer guarantees, but more pathways. A 12-team field means Cinderella runs are possible, but money and exposure still favor the usual kings. This era is defined by 2 forces, access and consolidation. The playoff gives more teams a title shot than ever before, but the rise of super conferences threatens to turn college football into a 2-league system. Tradition is fading, geography is meaningless, rivalries now span time zones, but fans still show up, players still make highlights, and Saturdays are still sacred. The game is evolving fast, and whether it's better or not, one thing's for sure. College football has never felt bigger, bolder, or more uncertain. If you love college football history, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to CFB Almanac.